I suppose I'm not supposed to give an actual plug for a retail store, right? So, but we were shopping in a discount store, Ollie's, and there's all these books, cool books. And so, the preacher educator just went wild buying all kinds of books. He said, one day I'll use this in a children's message. So I love children's literature. It speaks to us, and I thank you all for enthusiastically participating. We counted out, and starting on the 4th of June, with Todd's sister marrying her girlfriend, going till October, there are 5 weddings that we are attending in the next 5 months, 2 of which I'm officiating at, because one of them is a dear friend from long, long ago, who's the age of one of our kids, and the other is our youngest son, who is getting us on this whirlwind. And so we're on the back end of that. I don't know if you've been on the back end of planning a wedding. And there's like the invitations and the list of who do you invite and who do you scratch off the list, and how do you do that? And well, there's a story, Todd's out of the room, but there's a story in the wider part of our family about a wedding years ago. And a distant cousin was invited to the wedding, but they also had a class reunion to attend on the same day. So how did they decide? Attend the wedding, attend the reunion, attend the reunion, attend the wedding. So they called the family of the wedding and said, "What are you serving at the reception?" Because that was going to be the deciding factor of which party they went to. So it's kind of important, I guess, to know what's going on at the party. What do you want to go to it, or it's not a party you kind of like? The revelation, John's crazy dream that keeps on going and unfolding upon itself over and over and twisting around. I think he must have had it over several nights and would wake up and kind of write it and then go back another night and dream it and put it back and layer it on top of one another. It was initially given to 7 churches in Turkey. Little tiny podunk places all over the place that were under the thumb of the occupying empire. Economics was difficult, slavery was rampant, poverty was all over the place, and John was giving them this wild vision of a beautiful, wonderful place, one that had lots of singing, as we've heard in the last several Sundays, of all kinds of people and creatures singing together and just praising not the emperor, not the political system, not some other ruler, but the creator of all good things. And then there were people of all different nations and races, and even animals were doing this singing. And then there were those last week who had gone through a terrible ordeal, a great tribulation, who had gone through pain and suffering and torture and death and trial and tribulation, and they too were celebrating that God was actually the one in charge and in control. And this week there's this understanding that it's not just the expected people, it's people from all corners of the world and earth and nations. And then another dream, another nightmare. Because I can't imagine what it was like for this good little Jewish boy, Peter, Simon, to see all of these unclean, forbidden animals, and the voice say, "Go ahead, enjoy, eat." Now, I, for one, who happens to enjoy good lobster and seafood and ham and cheese sandwich every once in a while, I thought it was kind of a good idea. But to him, not so much. But I wonder, what was it like for Peter that first time, for him to enter the home of a foreigner, a stranger, a Gentile, the uncircumcised pork eater Romans? Oh, did I mention that he was also a general high up in the occupying forces who were arresting and controlling all of Peter's people? And yet the direction was, go in their house, sit down and eat, get to know them, create a relationship with them. I would think there are so many barriers So many tremulous experiences for Peter to actually go and do that. Most of us don't like getting to meet strangers and new people in new situations, especially on our own. If we're just all by ourselves, plucked in there, all on our own. In my first church, I don't think, I'm getting to that point. Did I tell the story or not? I was invited, I was 26, 27. I was invited to be the chaplain in the fire company in our little tiny town up in the mountains. The previous chaplain had died or retired or something or other, and I was the new minister in town, and they needed somebody who could pray prayers. So they asked me. Well, I knew some of the guys, and it was guys that were in the company at that time, but that was their house. And honestly, the first time my dad had been in the fire company, we'd been to fire company bazaars and things and all that stuff. But the first time walking into that fire company and walking in, it was not walking in. It was walking up rickety stairs above the main place where all the fire trucks were and so forth. It was nerve-wracking. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what things would be like. I don't know what the expectations were. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know what their language was going to be like. I didn't know what they think about this odd little preacher guy. But yet it was one of the important connections in my early ministry and in my life in the community to just get to know people of difference, know people of sameness, know people all created in the image of God, in the eyes of God's Spirit. Peter saw this amazing vision. And it's the vision that brings us together here at this table, that all are welcome in the name of God, that all the community is also welcome at this table to receive the nourishment that they need. And as we create the vision in this congregation of a beloved community, I'm wondering, what does that look like to us? What do we imagine? John described this place where everything old was gone. Crying, pain, tears, sadness, frustration, poverty, gone. And in place of it was what? Peace, joy, patience, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, goodness, discipline. Those are the gifts of the Spirit that Paul will later write about to the churches in that area. What do we envision, and what is so attractive to us that in a world which every day has maddening news, that we can envision something so amazing and so attractive that it buoys our spirits and lifts us up? And I kind of wonder, how do you do that? How do you find the joy and the peace and the hope and the tranquility? For years before coming here, I'd always heard the tagline for this county on the radio in its little advertisements. Fulton County, 4 to 4 lakes. Oh, yes, and just lost it for a second there. 44 reasons. That's right. So I was reading a story about a young person who was involved in the BOCES program down here in Johnstown that developed a challenge of 5 hikes in Fulton County, and then created a patch, a star, a 5-pointed star with beautiful kind of envisionings of all the different places. And most of them, I looked at them and I said, okay, can I take this challenge or not? And most of them are actually quite easy, but go to beautiful vistas. What brings you joy? What rejuvenates your soul? What brings you to a place of hope and peace and lets everything else go for just a moment? Because otherwise we get ground down. And I think the reason that John brought this crazy, insane, confusing vision and dream to people who had no money, who had no jobs, who were oppressed by the regime and the government, whose lives were so difficult, who were in danger of being imprisoned because they were following this new Jesus. It's kind of like the African American spirituals in this country that were coded messages across the plantation fields to the slaves, that tonight there would be an escape. Tonight there would be a delivery. Tonight there would be someone on the train, the gospel train, the Underground Railroad train, taking them to freedom. And of course, in the course of that freedom, they might not even make it, and they might die in great tribulation, but they would be free. They would be free from the bonds of slavery. So much so did they want something better that these dreams carried them along. So I continue to ask you, what buoys you up and gives you a dream? As we age and the challenges of our aging bodies come to us, as friends disappear and die, as illness comes in and out, as there's trouble in the world, where do you find encouragement and hope? Is it in a belief that even in the midst of it, that not just a children's story, but we really are all connected, that God really is working, and everyone who anytime, by any name and any faith, who reaches out in justice, for justice, who reaches out in triumph for the poor and the disadvantaged, to believe that, as Matthew shared, that God's been working. We felt too slowly and with too many roadblocks, but God's been working to make sure that people did not die and freeze on our streets next winter. And that everyone that came together to make that happen were moved by the Holy Spirit. That God has not abandoned the world. And whether they worship in our congregation, in our sanctuary, whether they name our Jesus or not, they are connected by the Spirit we claim to be the Holy Spirit of God. The Spirit that recreates, that redeems, that brings peace and justice and joy. And I'm wondering, how do you do that? You seek joy through inspiration. When sadness comes, we don't pretend it doesn't exist. The challenge is to acknowledge it, to say, yes, there is pain and suffering and tragedy, and I give that to God. And I move on and find another place where God is active in the world, and even in that time and in that place. Also, it's important to honor yourself. Because all the people in John's vision, all the people in that story, all the people that Peter came to meet were honored and blessed by God. Each and every one of us. Now, it was a little difficult when Peter came back, smelling of meat and pork and seafood into the kosher home of the rest of the followers of Jesus. And they were like, yeah, you've been with them. I don't know. I'm not really sure you can come back and eat with us anymore. That was a deciding and divisive point in our early faith history. Were the early followers of the way, the followers of Jesus, going to allow that to happen? Or were they going to totally split and continue to keep at distance folks who were different? Or were they going to figure out, and there's one after, that was the first Vatican, the first church council, was that decision. And it's a decision we all have to wrestle with every time. When someone walks in this door, if they have a different education, a different skin color, a different lifestyle, a different orientation, a different self-awareness, a different mental capability than any one of us, how will we deal with them? How will we welcome them? And how will we adjust so that they also feel the great welcome? I think, like Peter, you and I need to just continue to go out and, well, eat with people, break bread with them, listen to them, get to know them. And as we do, they may or may not walk in this sanctuary, but they will know you as a kindred spirit, a like soul, connected by the web, knit with the same Holy Spirit, with the same values. And they will know they are not alone in a world that is difficult. But you are the people that have the Holy Spirit of God in your lives and in your souls. You are the people that have found the love of God and been found by the grace of God. You are the people that have been given the gift of joy. And you come together to celebrate that, to encourage one another, to give each other that slap on the back, to say, yes, we can keep on going. And then you are the people that share that with everyone you meet, whether it's the clerk in the store, whether it's the driver ahead of you, whether it's the person behind you in line, whether it's the doctor or nurse that takes care of you, whether it's the judge or the cop that connects to you, whether it's the real estate agent, whether it's your boss. Each one of those people is looking for some glimmer of hope that goodness and justice and mercy exist in the world. And you found it. You know it. You live it. You experience it. And as we break bread today, and as we drink together today, we share that we're all nourished by this Spirit. And this feast, Jesus said he wouldn't eat again until he ate it with all of us, with you and me, in that heavenly realm that John would yet describe. All kinds of things can happen at this table, and we can unite with all kinds of people and spirits as we experience it. I hope that you're open to whatever that is, whether that for you is just some kind of a symbol and a historical remembrance of a dinner that happened 2,000 years ago, whether to you it is a connection with souls that have been at this very table in years and decades past, or family members or friends, or someone that is far away and distant and still shares at this table and shares the values and the faith and the hope and the love that you share, or whether it's people for whom you're praying, for people whom you're celebrating, for the people on the streets here in town, for all the people that are all welcome at this table. Who is it that you are inviting in your mind, in your heart, in your life, by your actions, to feast at this table? Because as Peter said, whoa, if God's letting them come, I'm not getting in the way of that one. So know that whoever it is that God brings to your mind, God has already invited, has already prepared, has already welcomed. So the first time you say something about hope and love and charity and faith and worship and church, you're not the first one. God already said it to them first, already prepared them for your coming, already got them ready to hear. It's an old Buddhist thing: when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, and you will be the teacher and the messenger for somebody, like Peter was. Cornelius saw a vision and was prepared. Peter was urged and was prepared. I pray that you and I get nourished here, or out in the wilderness, or on the fields, or on the 5 hikes, or when we're creating or cooking, or when we're gathering with friends and loved ones, or when we're reading, or when we're just resting and going nowhere. We're somewhere where we continue to feed our souls. Let's be nourished too by this bread and this cup and this community and this communion. For it gives us hope and a vision of something that's yet to be fully realized, but we keep creating it now and always. Amen.